Welcome back friends, this is 27 tutorial on JavaFX 8. In this tutorial we are going to see how to validate fields. So this is the 27, I will rename this first. On validate fields. Save this. I will run and I will show you now what is the need of validation of fields. So these are our users. So whenever we add any user, so there must be ID, first name, last name, email, username, password, and date of birth. So any one of the field is blank, or one of you, when we forget to enter any of the field, or when there must be compulsory fields, there is the need of validation or validate fields. So here we can see these are some fields. When we create any user, say user 11 with the first name A, last name say B, and when we save this, it adds into the database. So and the email field, username, password, and date of birth fields are empty. So we need to validate these fields. Whenever these fields are empty, it must ask or gives a warning to enter into those fields. So in this tutorial we are going to create a validate field class to add validation into the application. Now so here I'm going to create a private boolean validate fields, a class for validation, and so return, we have to add a return statement. So instead of false, I am going to return a true. So whenever the fields are empty, it must have to return true. So in the next, I'm going to add one if statement. So if say id dot get text, so I'm going to get the text from the text field id, and I'm going to check whether it is empty. If it is empty, we are going to give the warning for the field. So parallelly I'm going to add this for all the fields. So I'm going to copy this, and so next is for first name, and I'm going to paste. Similarly for last name dot paste again, or so I'm going to always check for each field. Then email, then username, or you can write a nested for loop for this. Then password, and lastly the date. So date dot get editor and get text is empty. So whenever these fields are empty, I'm going to give a warning message or alert. So to do that alert, I'm going to copy a alert message. So this is the alert which we have created in the save button. So I'm going to copy that alert and add to the validate fields. So in this time I'm going to use alert type of warning. So it will show the warning that fields are empty. So I'm going to set the title, say validate fields, then set header text as empty, and in the contact text I'm going to say the message please enter into the fields. So whenever any field is empty, it will show the message please enter into the fields, and I'm going to add a return statement. So return false, and when it will pass the false, and whenever the fields are empty, it will don't save the new user. So I'm going to use this validate fields in the save action method. So this is the save. I'm going to add now the validation for this save. Now to do that I'm going to add one more if with validate fields. So whenever we create a new user, first of all it will check for the validation whether the fields are empty or not, and so if the fields are not empty, it will enter into the try catch block. So and that users are added into the list. So this is the validate fields. It will check whether all these fields are empty. If the fields are empty, it will show the message enter into the fields and return a false, and that to the save action method. And whenever the fields empty, the user has not been created, or whether when the fields are not empty, it will return true, and the validate fields, the save action method, enter into the try catch block. So whenever fields are not empty, it validate fields gives them return type true and enter into the try catch block. Whenever the fields are empty, it will give the message please enter into the fields. So save and check whether it will give the error or warning message. Initial username and password ram and ram. So now these all are empty. Now I'm going to check whether the validation is working or not. So I'm going to press save. Before that I load the table. Now save. So as we can see, these all are the empty, and here the message is please enter into the fields. So okay, now I'm going to add another user, say 12, say B. Sorry. So I'm going to left these fields empty and again press save. So whenever any of the field is empty, it's again showing the message please enter into the fields, and say okay. Now so I'm going to add one other message whenever we want to check for particular field. For example, for date of birth, so it has to show that please enter the date of birth. So I'm going to go back to the application and enter into the validate fields. So we can add this validation for individual, that is for the ID, first name, last name, email, username, password, date. So to do that, I'm going to show you the example for the date. So I'm going to copy this. So before this date, I'm going to add a if. So whenever this date is empty, and I'm going to remove this date from this. So it will be checked for date whenever this date is empty. So I'm going to change the message please enter the date. Save this. Whenever the field empty, it will show the message enter the date. So run this. User and password ram. So these are the, I'm going to say XYZ using this. So say this is the 12, and I'm going to make this field empty, date of birth field empty. Now we are going to check whether this will shows the validation for the date or not. So now click on save. So this is the showing the message please enter the date. Now similarly you can do the for other fields for first name, like ID, first name, last name, email, username and password. So this is the tutorial on validate fields. If you have any question or a doubt about this tutorial, ask me in a comment section, or you can mail me on my email ID, that is alapureram@gmail.com. And finally, if you really like my work, please like, share and subscribe to my channel. Thanks for watching this video. See you in the next tutorial.